I just got home from work. I am exhausted. I'm currently working in the ICU for my last rotation of second year of residency. Woo! So that's super exciting. Stay tuned for more fun content to come in regards to that. But I have been wanting to make a video about the updates of what's been going on since my program decided that they were closing and my hospital decided that it's closing, and I am being absorbed into the sister program associated with my residency program. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. T, aka Bookworm MD, and this is my YouTube channel. So let's get into it. It just took me about 2 hours to get home from the hospital that I am rotating at because I haven't moved yet. Recently I posted a video in which I told you guys how my residency program is closing down, my hospital is closing down, and I'm being absorbed into the sister residency program that's associated with my hospital. Well, somebody very graciously left a comment asking for an update on how it's been going since merging into the new hospital. So I would love to provide you with that update today. So I started working at the new hospital. I've done a few rotations. There's two specific hospitals that I'm working at. One is about 40 minutes away from my apartment by train, and the other is supposed to be like an hour and 10 minutes, but it's never really an hour and 10 minutes. So it's pretty exhausting. You know, when you go to residency, you ideally try to live somewhere close to the hospital. A lot of residents live like right across the street or like right as close to the hospital as they can possibly get. And for me, when I originally moved into my apartment, which I love with all my heart, I ended up being about 30 minutes from my hospital, which was still a bit of a commute, but it was like a doable commute. You know, like if I had to be at work at 7 a.m., leave my house at 6:30, and it's 30 minutes door to door, it wasn't terrible. Now, it's pretty terrible. It's just because of the commute, like, it's just because of the long time that it takes. You know, I'm spending like 2 hours to 3 hours a day on public transportation, in addition to working like 13 and 14 hour shifts or 10 hour shifts at the shortest. So that's been rough, but you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm grateful to still have a residency program and still have a job. As for actually working in the hospital, there's always going to be growing pains, right? So I have been experiencing some growing pains. It's hard to be a senior resident in a new hospital. I think I touched on this a little bit in my last video, but you know, it's just about like not knowing where things are located, not knowing where to go when there's like a rapid response or a code. I mean, my residency program and the new program didn't give us any sort of orientation to like where is things. There's also like different wording that's used between the different residency programs. Things are called different, you know, things are called differently. There's different ways to go about like getting in contact with consultants, different policies in place for when we're transferring patients. So all this stuff that you're kind of just like learning on the job, and it's a little bit like hectic. The people are generally very nice. They're very nice. Everybody that I've worked with has been relatively very welcoming. But they are a little bit resistant to change. So obviously they're in their home turf and we're coming in and we're new, but we have our policies that we used to use and our kind of culture that we used to have in our old hospital. And their culture is a little bit different. And so when we come in and we try to suggest like giving a little something that's a little tiny piece of familiarity in our, you know, new experience, new environment and all this stuff, we get a lot of pushback. Like, they're not in a mean way, but they're kind of just like, no. They're kind of just like, we've always done it this way, so we're just going to keep doing it this way. And it's totally understandable. I mean, the same way that we've been building our habits for myself the last 2 years, they've been building their habits for whatever amount of years the program has been run as it's been run. And the residents have taught each other year after year how to go about doing certain things. So it's been rough for my residents, I think, to kind of acclimate to a whole new like culture essentially in the hospital, and it's a little sad to have the loss of the culture that we built in our residency program to basically just like forget about it and adopt this whole other culture. So things that I'm referring to, for example, it's like we use Epic EMR in my old program and in this new program. And in Epic, in my old program, there were certain places where you could put like updates about the patients, like a little blurb about what's going on, why they're here in the hospital, a few active issues, and then another little section where we would put things to do for the patients, like consult this person, order this lab, stuff like that. At the new hospital, they put everything in one section. So it's a little bit disorienting when you go into something that you're so used to doing and you're used to looking in one place for information and it's not there, and you're like, oh, whoa, I have to go to this other spot. But that's a minor issue. The other thing is sign-outs. So this program I feel is a little bit more intern-centric. An intern, if you don't know, is a first-year resident. They're a little more intern-centric because the interns are assigned as like the frontline provider for all of the patients, and any messages that come in regard to the patients go to that intern. But at my hospital, we used to use teams. So everybody would sign into the team, and then whenever the nurses had to send a message, they would send a message to the team, and anybody signed into that group would get that message, which I felt was good because as a senior, I always knew everything that was going on with all my interns' patients. Versus in this hospital, because the intern's the only one getting the message, it's their job to inform me of what they're being told. And sometimes that doesn't happen, so it can be a little scary, especially if you don't have this same level of like trust yet with the intern, especially an early intern, like early in the year. That hasn't been that big of an issue with us because we joined into this program later in the year, so a lot of the interns are really seasoned and they know what they're doing, and that's amazing. But it is a difference. Also, like when signing out for a long call, usually the senior at my old program would sign out to the senior who's staying on call to tell them about the patients and people you have to worry about. But at this hospital, it's more that the main team is being covered by the intern, and any new patients that come in get covered by the senior. So it's not uncommon for another senior to leave and you're the one on call, but you don't get sign out from that person who left because the intern's supposed to have it. That's something that also takes a bit of getting used to, especially for someone like me who's a bit of a micromanager or a type A who wants to know everything that's going on with my patients. But I don't want to come off as that senior who's like breathing over my intern's shoulder like, tell me what's going on, tell me what are the to-dos, you know? Granted, of course, I can just read it, but sign out is one of the most dangerous times in the hospital when you're changing shifts. Someone who doesn't know the patient as well is now taking over their care, and something that could be scary and dangerous in the context of one person could be totally normal in the context of another person. So it's just an easy way for things to fall through the cracks, and writing doesn't always get across the message of how severe the case is. Also, sometimes in the hospital things are popping off and you just don't have time to read like all the notes to basically figure out what the heck's going on. So that has definitely taken some getting used to, but it involves a lot of trust in your interns. So I've been learning it. I'm learning how to trust my interns. But interestingly, we also have different ideas of like what interns' responsibility should be. So in my old program, the intern was basically like doing all the scut work, all the grunt work. Like they're in charge of writing the notes, pre-running on the patients, writing the notes, ordering labs, consulting consultants. If there's an admission, they place admission orders, they write an admission note, they obviously see the patient. If there's a discharge, they place discharge orders, they write a discharge summary, they send discharge medications on behalf of the patient. And the senior is there to help with any task in case it gets overwhelming, but the senior is also there to help provide medical knowledge and teaching. So the time of the senior is kind of freed up a little bit more so that they can learn a little bit more and then teach to their intern. So it's an opportunity as a second year to really dive into like building your clinical knowledge, and as a third year as well. Versus as an intern, you're just learning all the like menial tasks that it takes to take care of a patient in the hospital. I had to do all that stuff as an intern. I didn't really get help from my seniors, like obviously early on, but towards the end I was expected to do everything, top to bottom, soups to nuts, for all my patients. And I would have up to like 10 patients and do admissions, you know? But I feel like that made me a good senior. I feel like that made me a better doctor, and I feel super competent and confident in the hospital to do anything I have to do to take care of a patient. But in the new program, they have a more like kind of split delineation of tasks. So the intern like pre-rounds and writes the notes for their patients, and of course like still places orders and stuff like that. But writing notes is time consuming. Or if there's an admission, they see the patient and they make sure they write the note. And in the meantime, / simultaneously, I guess to be more efficient, the senior will place the orders, and sometimes place consults and stuff too. And I see the merit in both ways. You know, when I was an intern, I was like, why is my senior like not helping me do stuff? But I learned a lot from being thrown into the fire in a sense. And on this side, I see the benefit of like making it efficient and making it a team. But, you know, it's hard for me to sit there and say like, oh, this is good, this is great, because interns still need to learn to do all those tasks. So the argument is like, obviously we'll still teach them how to do all those tasks, but it doesn't mean that we should make them do all those tasks. And I feel like it's a case-by-case basis, but the culture at this program is very much more like team-centric and like, you know, hand-in-hand, which I think is really nice. But when I'm coming from a place that was a little bit different, still supportive, still great, but like forced me to learn, forced me to grow in a different way, I'm like, oh, but this is how I was taught to do it. Like, this is the way that I need to show other people how to do it. So it's a little hard to like step into that. Plus, I did all that grunt work as an intern, you know, all the consults, all the orders. Like, I did all that stuff as an intern. So now, like, to come back into a second year role and be expected to do it every single patient, it's a little bit like, oh geez, now I have to go back and do these tasks again that I aged out of that last, you know, after I finished intern year, is what I thought. And of course, like, that's not to say that I'm not willing to like help and support my intern when things get overwhelming. I can take over and handle tasks. But the point is, I learned how to do it. I know how to do it. They need to learn how to do it, and they need to know how to do it. It's a little bit hard to explain. I think everyone has their own kind of opinions on this. And I think because it's so hard to explain, it also can like hit a nerve and like trigger some people. So, you know, it's something that I've butted heads with some of the other residents in the other program, because it's just two different cultures that are a little bit clashing. But, you know, other hospitals do it differently. Other hospitals throw their interns in the fire in another way. Like, they'll just leave them on call by themselves to take care of 20 patients and have the senior go and have extra days off. And that's awesome, because when you're a senior, you're like, I busted my butt as an intern and now I get extra days off. But when you're an intern, you're like, oh my God, I'm drowning. I have no one to turn to. I don't have any support. And that sounds scary and dangerous. But you sink or you swim, right? So I don't really know what the best way to do it in medical training. I'm not a, you know, medical educator, but I'm just feeling the friction when I'm coming into bringing in the culture that I learned in to a space where that culture is not the same. Another thing is that, like, to accommodate a bigger program, you've got like a big residency program over here and a big one over here merging together to create the biggest residency program in the country. We had to make, like, our chiefs and our administration had to make changes to our schedules to accommodate all of us in the hospital, right? Or in the program itself. And so as it stands, in my old program, we had a 6+2 structure. So 6+2 means 6 weeks where you're doing 2 weeks at a time of inpatient or consult services or an elective. And then after those 6 weeks are over, on a regular basis, you always have 2 weeks of clinic. And then it repeats, you know, floors, consults, electives, clinic, stuff like that. And the new program has the same thing. They do 2 weeks at a time of everything, and they do 6 weeks of, you know, inpatient stuff or electives or consults, and then they do 2 weeks of clinic. But the way that we did our clinic is different. So my old program would have us do 4 days a week out of 5, a full clinic, you know, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with like seeing all your patients through the morning session, have lunch, and all your patients through the afternoon session. In this program, they have half days of clinic and sometimes full days, but it's never like 4 days straight. It's always a little bit less than that. And the rest of their time is like they're kind of like on call in case somebody calls out sick, so that they can go in and cover for that person. So that time is administrative time to like call your patients or like work on research or work on stuff for yourself or for your life when you're not working in the clinic. So now that our programs are merging, we're trying to take a little bit of a balance of both. So we're going to have less like we're gonna keep their structure of the half days with some full days, but not a full 4 days a week. But they're gonna increase the number of half day sessions that we get. So my people from my program are gonna have less clinic time, and the people from their program are gonna have more clinic time. So depending on how you look at it, it's better for like my program's people, but a little bit worse for the other program's people. Additionally, for floors, we had different call structures. So floors is generally the rotation in residency, especially in internal medicine, that you do the most of. 2/3 of your residency time, at least in internal medicine, in the wards or the floors, and 1/3 of the time in the outpatient setting, so clinics and stuff like that. So when we were on the floor/wards, we had a every other day call structure. So, every other day you're there till 8 p.m. and on the days you're not there till 8, you're there till 5, working and seeing patients. In their hospital, their system, they had it every 4-day call structure. So every 4th day, you're staying until 8 p.m. All the other days you're leaving at 4 or 5. And on the days that you're leaving at 4 or 5, someone else is on call, covering those patients. So now, in order to accommodate this merge, the new program is going to be adopting our old structure of every other day on call. But when we're on call, we're on call till 8 p.m. and on the days we're not on call, we are there till 2 p.m. So it's actually going to be a little bit better for the people from my program, but a little bit worse for the people from their program. Additionally, in residency, you have weekend structures. So there's black weekends, gray weekends, or gold weekends. Black weekends are when you work both days of the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Neither my program nor the other program does black weekends, really. Gold weekends are when you have a whole weekend off, Saturday and Sunday, so like a normal person's job. And gray weekends are when you work 1 day of the weekend, so either Saturday or Sunday. My program, when you were on the wards, you would do a gray weekend and a gold weekend. So in an intense rotation where you're on call every other day, you at least had one full 2-day weekend to look forward to every time. And their program, they had less call, but they had gray weekends. So every weekend they're working 1 day of the weekend. Now with the merge, we're gonna have the every other day call structure and gray weekends. So it's gonna be 6 days a week, being on long call every other day for 6 days a week, 2 weeks straight. So that makes it a little bit worse for my program, but about the same for their program. I think it's just worse. I think it's just bad all around, to be honest, but I digress. Personally, I think that it's a little bit of a shame because, in gaining so many residents from our program that's closing down and joining us with this already existing program that's already staffing these 2 hospitals in the city, our administration and our leadership had such an opportunity to take all these people and say, you know what, we have an abundance of workers. We can actually make everyone's quality of life a little bit better. And the way that I would have loved to see that happen would have been keeping the call structure or the floor structure, and however each program did it, who cares? But allowing these excess residents to have more opportunity doing electives, because part of residency is learning how to do internal medicine and be an internal medicine doctor, of course, but it's also learning about all the different specialties in internal medicine, and some people choose to specialize and go into fellowship. So to give those people the opportunity to make connections, to learn more, to do research, like that would have been an amazing thing, and it would have been unprecedented in a New York City program. However, what they decided to do instead was to take our teams and basically add more people to the teams. So now every team, instead of having 1 senior resident and 2 interns, now there's 2 senior residents and 2 interns because we're getting extra seniors from these 2 programs combining. And they also made more teams. So what this has done is basically like you've increased our call, you've changed up the call structure to make it worse for everybody around. And you basically double the amount of floors that we have to do because now we need double the amount of people on the floors teams. So as a 3rd-year resident going into my 3rd year next year, I'm supposed to be having less floors because I've already done so many floors as an intern, as a 2nd-year resident. But upcoming this year, I've already gotten my schedule, I have 6 blocks of floors. Just for reference, a normal 3rd year has like 3 or 4 blocks of floors. So I don't know how a merger to a larger program has now increased the amount of floors, which again is one of the most intense rotations that we do in a third year resident schedule. I don't understand how that computes, but that is what our program has chosen to do. You know, I'm sure because they're doing the best that they can. Another thing that has come out of this whole situation, the whole merge, all this stuff, is that, you know, I'm being forced to move. And oh my God, if you're in residency, you know that the idea of moving while you're in residency is just, oh my goodness. It is one of my worst fears, but I'm living through it and I'm being stronger for it. It's what I'm telling myself. Anyways, yes, I am being forced to move because, as I mentioned earlier in this video, traveling about 3 hours a day on top of 13 and 14-hour shifts or even 10-hour shifts is exhausting, and it leaves no time to do the things that I need to do, like laundry, cooking, buying groceries, let alone anything fun or enjoyable, because I'm exhausted all the time from traveling and working and all this. It's hard. Traveling all that time, you know, it's not a good quality of life. So I am giving up this apartment that I absolutely love, that I've loved living in for the last 2 years, in this beautiful part of Brooklyn, and I will be moving into Manhattan to be closer to the hospitals. So that's good, but on the one hand, it's like I am moving so that my life can just surround my job, and that kind of sucks. But again, it's residency. I have 1 more year. Like, let's just do it. Let's get it over with. I would have probably had to move after, you know, this last year of residency anyways, because I don't know where I'm going to end up working as an attending, but oh my gosh. But, you know, just the fact that it's like something I have to do because of something that's being impressed upon me and not something that I'm choosing to do because I want to move or I'm changing seasons in my life, that is a little bit frustrating. Now, obviously, just because the residency program is merging and all the residents still have jobs, that doesn't mean that all our faculty that we had at our old hospital have jobs. A lot of them either left or are leaving us. Some got offered spots to come and merge with us, but a lot of them didn't, and then they have to find new jobs. So because of this whole merge, like, you know, it's sad because I'm losing out on like faculty and mentors that I made over the last 2 years that I built these relationships with, and now I'm going into a whole new space where the competition is twice as many people and I have to start all over again. I'm personally not applying for fellowship, but if I were, I would be really scared because now it's like so much more competition, people that are, you know, not as invested in you because they don't really know you, and all you've got is not even a year, because when you apply for fellowship, you apply in the beginning of 3rd year, so all you've got is a couple of months really to try and make an impression, get a letter of recommendation, you know, like have people remember you, want you to be with them, be on their team and be in their specialty or in their program. So that part is a little bit hard, and it's obviously hard to say goodbye to people that you've just built relationships with over the last couple of years, but that's life, right? And the last point that I want to make, the last update that I have for you is just like, you know, the match truly is a match. And I'm so grateful that I matched into the program that I matched into, and I met the people that I was meant to be with, and that was who I was meant to do my residency with. They're truly my people. Like, I talk to them, I laugh with them, I joke with them, I get them, they get me. It's like breathing. It's calm. It's great. You know, in this program, those people match and those people match, and they all click, and I see how they click. But just because we're merging, that doesn't mean we match. So you can feel a difference, you know, in the vibe, and that is a little something that takes getting used to. So overall, I am super, super, super grateful for the opportunity to continue to do residency and to do it in Manhattan, and to not have my residency experience like hindered or delayed or anything like that. You know, I'm going to graduate on time. I'm still going to be an attending. I'm still going to get to do what I want to do. I'm still going to move on with my life. That is all amazing. And I'm so, so grateful to, you know, to the greater like GME for basically keeping a lot, not throwing us residents to the dust and not making us like continue on into a sister program. But with that being said, like it's not all coming up roses. Like there's definitely things that are sad. There's things that are frustrating. There's things that are upsetting. There's challenges that need to be overcome. And then there's like new experiences to be had, new friends to make, new lessons to learn. Like, I'm excited that I'm gonna get to learn so much from an institution that has more than what mine had because mine was closing. It's definitely like up and down, and I don't want to sound too pessimistic, and I hope I didn't, but I'm just trying to be real with you guys. Like, it's definitely an adjustment. Everybody's feeling it in their own way, and right now it's still a bit raw. So I am just trying to wrap my head around it. I'm trying to be a team player. I'm trying to be enthusiastic, but I'm also like excited to be a third year, finish residency, and not have to worry about this anymore. And that's the honest freaking truth. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you like this video. There's going to be so much more content coming up. So please, if you're not already, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!